Leaders.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, thank everyone for the attendance, and if the minutes can reflect the attendance roll of various trustees and staff. Let's move on to item 3, item 2. Let's go right into the public hearing. All right, Katie, statement of public notice.
Purpose of the hearing is for public review and comments regarding proposed 2021 Village of Grafton annual program budget and related levies.
Okay, thank you very much. So a public hearing, the purpose of the public hearing is for public feedback regarding the proposed budget for 2021, the program budget. We start with presentations since we have nobody new that's in attendance, either on in the audience or online. We will forego the repeating the PowerPoint. Is everybody okay with that? And we'll go into highlights. So Jesse, you want to give us a summary, and then we'll open it up for comment.
Certainly. The overall tax levy for the 2021 budget is at the maximum allowable limit by state law at just over $8 million, at $8,093,819. That maximum tax levy is based upon taking the net to construction valuation adjustment allowed under state law. So therefore, we have met our maximum ability to levy taxes, which is the primary source of revenue for the village. The assessed valuation of the Village of Grafton sits at about $1.3 billion. And following the revaluation project, our assessed to equalized valuation ratio is now at a healthy 98.6%. We are looking at a 1.4% consumer price index, and that is important to consider because one of the primary goals of the budget is to comply with the state of Wisconsin's expenditure restraint program. The consumer price index is part of the formula that it helps calculate a municipality's spending capacity, if you will, in a given year. That said, we did see a higher higher CPI figure than what we initially estimated for budgeting purposes. However, that isn't necessarily helpful to the village, as that extra spending capacity, quote unquote, is not available to us, as we do not have an offsetting revenue. We can't levy any additional property taxes. So what that would mean would be additional use of fund balance or cuts to the general fund portion of the budget. So that said, many steps were taken to comply with the expenditure restraint program, which we successfully have, which translates to about $92,000 or $94,000 worth of state shared revenue. Overall, the total financial plan for the village is down about 4.5% in overall expenditures from the previous year. And this is across all the funds. General fund is coming in slightly lower than 2020 adopted as a whole, or general government, I should say, excuse me, is coming in lower. A lot of that feeds back to expenditures related to elections and whatnot, and the revaluation costs, because that project is now complete. So otherwise, pretty straightforward adjustments to other areas of the general fund. Tax levy supports the special revenue budgets are primarily status quo or increased slightly. That said, there is a reduction to the recreation special revenue fund based upon programming changes recommended by previous director Safstrom. There is no new debt service proposed for the 2021 budget. That said, our debt capacity ratio continues to drop. We are down over 5% from a few years ago, with the ability as a municipality to carry debt. So with that, we're in healthy shape with regards to debt service. Our proprietary funds, water utility and wastewater utilities, also operating at a healthy rate. Both utilities do show a retained earnings at year end. This is the final year of the wastewater user fee adjustments. So those retained earnings do show a significant amount at year end, but that positions the village not only to address debt service for the Headworks building, but also to address capital needs going into the future. So with that, both utilities are in sound shape. Capital funds, projects and equipment are funded with regards to, we do meet the informal policy of the road program goals of 1 mile. We do address that through utility cost sharing, tax incremental financing, district cost sharing, and then standard capital funds. Sidewalk program is fully funded. Other projects are funded as well. With regards to equipment, we did touch on in the finance committee's meeting, we do have an allocation for police squads. We are entertaining a lease program there to get more bang for our buck, and other equipment needs are met as well. There were a couple of public works equipment items that were removed from the budget as a function of expenditure restraint program compliance. Fund balance management, the 2021 budget does program about $744,000 worth of fund balance. That said, we do meet the policy threshold of 25% of fund balance to expenditures. So with that, again, another check mark there where we do comply with policy directives. The property tax rate that the annual budget is calling for comes in following the revaluation project at $6 and rounding 22 cents per $1,000 of value. So on a $250,000 home here in the village of Grafton, that would equate out to a $1,554 tax bill. I do break out in the presentation what that $1,554 goes to among the different program areas, including police, capital expenditures, fire EMS, library, debt service, and so on. So in the end, the fiscal year 2021 budget summary, I am happy and I want to give kudos to all staff who participated in the accumulation, creation, compilation, and final organization of this particular budget proposal. We are presenting to you, the board, a balanced budget with a tax levy of just over $8 million, which is up 2.87% based upon that net new construction value adjustment. Both state levy limits and expenditure restraint programs are met. The village's fund balance policy and road maintenance policies are met. We maintain with this budget proposal all municipal services, everything across the board from public works to fire EMS, police, utilities, parks rec, and general operations, all at a reasonable tax rate of about $6.22 per $1,000 of value, with the final bullet point there, no new debt, general obligation debt is proposed. That is an overview of the 2021 budget proposal as it stands before the board right now.
All right, thank you. So it's a public hearing. First thing we do is we look at sign-up sheets. There's nobody on the sign-up sheet. Then we open it up to the public for any comment that they may have, either online or in the audience. And then finally, any final comments from the village board before we go ahead and close this portion of the public hearing. And it goes to the village board at next board meeting. So again, nobody on the sign-up sheets, nobody, anybody online that has any comments? Okay, we looked at a couple, go ahead.
Yeah, I didn't put my name on the sign-up sheet, but I do have a question and a couple of comments. One of my questions is, what progress, if any, has been made towards addressing the modest salary adjustment that was part of Chief Rice's proposal submitted to the committee of whole several months ago? Is there any progress been made?
So there has been progress. So we expect to see the internal salary survey presented to finance in January. But with the action that was taken tonight at finance, we are making a recommendation for some reallocation of capital dollars. Based on the numbers that we're tentatively looking at tonight, the 42,000. Jesse, I think we were looking at 30.
Yes. So we have $75,500 programmed in the capital plan for a fleet allowance. With that, we are looking at significant cost savings with regards to enacting a lease program. So what we could see here, potential to reallocate up to about $35,000 of those funds towards the fire department to help offset the fund balance that is programmed.
So I think we were looking at, if we were looking at 42, we were thinking, my numbers come up to 30 for applied fund balance for the fire department. That kind of puts them in a much better position. We do know that we do have a couple personnel opportunities that this could offset. But then we were thinking of leaving 5,000 in for the capital side for any particular, if we have some overages on a capital project or something, we would have a little bit of balance in there. And then putting $5,000 into the Park and Open Space Fund to help with either maintenance of parking lots or any amenities for the pool, things like that. That was the request. So we're putting at least funding in there based on activity actions that was taken by finance and assume it will be approved. That'll be basically providing options, funding options. So we're setting the table.
Okay, and just again, so I understand, because I think that the piece that's at this point not been addressed is $9,700 roughly. So is the thought that you take some of this $40,000 in savings and put it towards the fire department to take care of that small piece?
Or whatever else. Remember, this is a two-step process also for the paid on call and things like that. So I mean,
Right.
the idea is there's a need there. There's a fund balance, applied fund balance of about 60,000, so this definitely will go a long way towards alleviating some of that pressure. So it should put us in a much better position financially in the fire department.
Okay, thank you.
So that was the question. So good question. But it is a public hearing, so I'll open it up to the rest of the board for any comments and questions they may have on this particular 2021 program budget. Okay, hearing none, we'll go on.
It's right here. I have a question.
Okay.
So I actually had a lot of questions, Jesse, that, were things that were different in the green pages that you sent to us. So, and I'm wondering why some, changes were not placed in the initial pages. There are many departments that the numbers don't change below, and under the topic of 2021 budget highlights, the original white pages say there are no changes. And with the new green sheets, it says, yes, there are changes. It lists the changes and the money below though doesn't change. There are areas, I mean, I've got a list of 20 questions, Jesse. Information that doesn't match up from the white pages to the green pages. Even things like certain number of FTEs, you know, to
Yeah,
different departments.
that was all reallocated to match what it truly is.
So why
From an
wasn't
accounting
it
standpoint,
correct
yeah.
the first time in the white pages?
Because it was more of a head count in the white pages. In the green pages, we're looking at it from an accounting standpoint where there's allocations. For instance, I have time allocated in essence across the board from different areas. A little bit of my time comes out of TIF districts, a little bit of my time comes out of utility, a little bit of my time, or the majority of my time comes out of general fund. Very similar to the administrative assistant that serves in our department. Some of her time comes out of the administration budget. Some of her time comes out of the finance department's budget. Some of her time comes out of utility budget. So again, it's looking to show those positions from how they are accounted for by time charged, if you will.
And then another example is the DPW director, if you added up, the allocation was 1.5 people.
Mhm.
So we
So that was
had to make an
completely
adjustment.
different, right? So the white pages said one thing, the green page said something else. I'm assuming that didn't change in the last 2 weeks, that's just information that hasn't been carried over to the green page.
It was just updated based on review.
So,
Again, this is a draft.
so here's an example, on page 129, under the public safety inspection area. In the initial sheets that you gave us, it lists that there's 2 total employees at the top. On the left, it lists inspection services 1.50. And on the new sheet that you gave us, it now says total employees 2.25. And inspection services are now up to 1.75. The numbers below have not changed, but the information on the top has changed. So there are multiple departments and topics in this book that have errors like this, which concerns me because I feel like what you give us the first time, I go through this book. And so when I see an area that might say there are no notable changes for 2021, and then the information is different on the green sheet, I'm at a loss to figure out, was that something that was changed after we saw the budget the first time?
Some of the items with the budget were just a request from trustees, well, actually, no, trustee Krieger, and he was kind of like, hey, that's 15%, you said 10%, so we went back in and adjusted a few of them.
So why aren't we told that information? I mean, I know that, I think, Tom, you had said you had questions last time.
I covered those with Paul and.
But most of these
in
aren't.
fact, the number of FTEs in many of the departments, I caught the same,
Right,
I caught a number of discrepancies and a number of the yellow sheet or green sheets actually reflect some of the corrections that I went over with Paul. And I'm happy with all the numbers on the green sheets now versus what I saw originally. And it was explained that basically the green sheets now reflect numbers in terms of FTE assignment to the various departments that some people, many of the people of staff work in a number of different departments. And I don't know if those numbers were on the white sheets, they either were not updated or they just.
right, they weren't updated. This is like years ago when we kept looking over the police department budget and it had too many employees plugged in. And you know what, and I guess that's my concern. I feel like that was kind of sloppy. That you had to go, I mean, I found every single one of those mistakes too. There's like 22 of them. So I compared every page back and forth and took a note and said, why would this be here? That's frustrating to me with questions that, and Tom, I didn't know that you asked those questions. That would have been nice to know that information.
That being said, we appreciate the extra sets of eyes as our laser focus is getting the meat and potatoes of those budget calculations. We do come back and do the best we can to proof out the department purpose, the descriptions, the total FTE counts. We look to proof those as best we can, but our primary focus is making sure the dollars and cents are there. If there are any headcount changes, if there are any allocation changes, that is reported. This, again, we stress and place all of our effort towards those sheets of the account breakdowns and the reporting of the financials. And if there are any staffing changes, that is reported. That said, if there is a misprint on an allocation of an FTE, we do our best to catch that, and we do appreciate the feedback coming from all the different eyes that are on this document, this draft document. But again, staff is laser focused on the dollars and cents, if you will.
I do understand that, but again, it's frustrating when we spend all our time on the weekend, when we get it on a Friday afternoon, and we look through these 34 edit pages to compare what's different. And it would be nice going forward for next year, if you're making changes to anything, if you give us one sheet of paper that says, these are the changes that have been made, because otherwise we're comparing page to page.
All right, so that's fair.
Yeah,
And
summary sheet.
that's you know, that's a good suggestion, but I do have to, you know, the numbers, overall budget doesn't change. Clearly, the people that have been involved in the budget process from year to year realize that we always do get revisions throughout the budget process. The point is as we get closer and closer, like tonight, we are actually getting the actual true numbers and the actual program areas that are being projected for the 2021.
Mr. President, that's what I was going to ask. I appreciate the updates that were given to us on the green sheets, but I think it's a common practice to either like highlight the changes or make the font in red. Because just like Lisa, I went through everything all weekend long looking for what the change was.
No problem.
So that's a
Absolutely, we
good
can do that.
suggestion. I
Yeah.
think that's good feedback. Other comments?
Yeah, I
on the
did
public
have a comment.
hearing?
Yeah, my last comment.
Mhm.
So, I am disappointed, Jesse, that you made it a point to say to the public safety and or the fire chief that if there was an increase in revenue, and that if he could show that there was an increase in revenue in his budget, that, either you would consider, or, you know, this committee, this board as a whole had asked you to look for those adjusted wages.
Mhm.
There is an increase in the revenues of $9,700 that you placed in there. And I'm disappointed to see that there is no change in the wages, just an increase in the revenue amount.
Correct, because as it sits right now, the fire department is still running at a deficit with fund balance program. I was not comfortable with programming fund balance to address wage issues because that is unsustainable. As it is, that is how the decision-making process unfolded with the creation of what was set forth on the green sheet and the budget as a whole.
Yeah, and we know that there's other special revenue funds that do not make a profit. There is no profit in the aquatic area, the environmental fund, the library. And so to hear that for this one department, what administration is saying is, hey, guess what? You can't get a raise until you can prove or you can show or you can make money to cover your raise.
So
So,
again, I will interrupt. That is something that I believe that I just addressed. I was working at staff level to take that on as a to-do. I did make a commitment at a previous meeting that this would be addressed. And I think with the actions as taken earlier, I think we've made that commitment to the fire department. And I think we definitely take steps that we can address any personnel issues as they come up. And that's really what we needed to do, is we needed to create a funding mechanism. And that, assuming that the village board approves that would be in place.
so that's good. I appreciate that. But because this has been dragged on ever since summer, from public safety to finance, to committee of the whole, back to finance, back to budget, you know, with all the intent of saying, yes, we will look at something for you, or we will hear you out for this. That's not acceptable to me. I feel like the public safety committee wasn't listened to. And I understand where you're coming from, but I will be voting no on the budget for this reason. I don't like how it happened. I don't like what happened behind the scenes, and it's not acceptable to me.
All right, thank you for your comments. Any other comments on the public hearing? All right, with that being said, we'll go ahead and close this portion of the public hearing, and let's move on to the regular agenda. So line item 6, entertain a motion for approval of the 1019 committee as a whole, the 1019 village board meeting minutes, and the file of the 819 park and rec board, the 825 planning commission, the 910 architectural review board, the 914 board of public works, 915 public safety committee meeting minutes as presented.
I'll make a motion to approve.
I'll second.
Motion and second, quite a few minutes. Go ahead, let's get started.
I have a question on the village board meeting minutes for the 19th. The last paragraph says fire chief Saco abruptly retired. Didn't he just quit? He didn't retire, correct?
That is not for us to say. We understand he retired. That's the information I
That's what
received.
the newspaper says. Okay,
Going with the information I received.
all right. Thank you.
Other comments, questions? Yes.
I got a question on the minutes for on the committee of the whole. We had a citizen, Mr. Harvick, have an exchange with President Brunkwell concerning fire department wages. That was not listed in the minutes at all. I think it should have been. And we also had an exchange with Chief Rice and President Brunkwell concerning the same thing, and that was not listed. Neither one of those are listed in the minutes. I think they should be for the record.
Fair enough. Catch that, Katie?
Yep.
Okay. Anything else? Tom? I'm always gonna look at you because,
Thank you, but no.
all right, motion second, all in favor?
Aye.
With those corrections and additions, thank you. Let's move on to item 7. Anybody in the audience or online that wishes to be heard on a non-agenda item? All right, let's move on to item 8. Entertain a motion to approve appointing Bruce McElmay to the CDA.
I'll make a motion to approve.
I'll second.
Motion is second, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Let's move on to 9. Item resolutions, ordinance, action items. Item A is a resolution amending the 2020 general fund budget. And again, this is pretty much housekeeping.
Yeah, it's housekeeping, moving $50,000 of budgeted contingency and the remainder of the unused wage adjustment reserve to the sundry line item where we're booking all the COVID-19 related expenses.
The resolution takes an offer, motion, a second.
I'll make an offer.
Motion.
Second.
Offer, motion, second, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That resolution passes. Item B is a motion to approve the small business relief loan for Foreman Fitness Health Club in the amount of $10,000. Be approved.
I'll make the motion.
Second.
Anything you wish to add, Paul? Or?
It'll be Jessica.
No? Okay.
Sorry, who made that second?
Trustee Miller.
Thank you.
Motion and second. Final comments? Hearing none, all in favor? Any opposed? That motion passes. Item C is report of the Parks and Rec Committee, and that's one item. A motion to allow the Park and Rec Department to purchase a new play structure for Grafton Lions Park with funds that come from the Park and Rec Facilities Fund be approved.
I'll make a motion.
I'll second.
Motion and second. Pretty healthy fund balance there.
Yes.
Yep. 700.
Yep, cover the
I have a
9,000.
question, may I ask that?
Sure.
Megan, I thought we discussed was the cutoff like end of October for the, okay, what, can we still get the price that you,
Yes, yes.
even early November, right? You can order that? Okay.
Is the amount of money, $9,500? That's not included in the motion. I don't know if that needs to be.
We can certainly add it.
If that was the approximate amount, I do have an updated one from them, which is $9,607.
Persons who made the motion and second wish to amend this to amount
Yes.
not to exceed $10,000.
Yes.
Is that both? Motion and second?
Yes.
Okay. All right, with that change, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion passes. Let's move on to item 10, Department and Officers Reports. We have a good representation tonight. Anything that they wish to pass along? Any questions for them? Jesse, you can take the start.
Sure. Actually, I'm going to steal the thunder of a couple of our departments here. First of all, kudos to the clerk's department. An absentee balloting or an absentee voting update as of this morning. 5,454 total absentee ballots have been returned either by mail or in person. Those will be processed on Election Day tomorrow. This is 63% of the village's registered voters. That said, absentee ballots may be submitted as late as 8 p.m. tomorrow, November 3rd.
Could you give me that number once more?
Sure. 5,454 total absentee ballots have been returned either by mail or here in person.
Okay, thank you.
Yep. And again, that's 63% of the village's registered voters. Then stealing the thunder of the Community Development Department, our Board of Review did meet last week with the village's revaluation project. 4 property owners came forward and submitted objections to their new assessment values. That said, one assessment was changed by the Board of Review. All told, a very good overall project and process carried out. Hats off to not only our department, but their ability to work with and oversee our contracted assessment firm. Last but not least, a quick update on the fire and EMS shared services feasibility study. Last week, Fire Chief Rice and I did participate in a Zoom meeting with the Wisconsin Policy Forum regarding the status of this study. Representatives from all of the participating communities did attend this meeting. The study is on track to be formally published by the end of the year. There will be a pre-release to the communities for their review prior to the full release of the document. That said, overall, one of the parting comments here that really stuck with me was that the Wisconsin Policy Forum has done many of these studies throughout the state of Wisconsin, and they are very pleased and very pleasantly surprised to see the amount of intergovernmental cooperation that is already occurring here in Ozaukee County among the different departments. And so overall, they're very pleased with the way the study is coming along and moving forward. And that said, we will see something by year's end. So that is my update for this evening.
Okay, questions for Jesse? Dave?
I have a question, sir. Chief Rice. How is the transition with Sackville going so far? It's been 2 weeks now, correct?
Yeah, I actually have a Zoom meeting tonight with their workforce, but it's been going fine. I've been on a few calls up there. They had a fire and a bad accident on the interstate the other night. So far so good. Lot of things to work on.
So you're getting your 6 hours in a week?
Not yet, but it'll probably grow.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, Lisa?
That's what I wanted to ask.
Okay. Any other comments or any other feedback? All right, let's move on to item 11, licenses. Entertain a motion to approve the operator's license as presented.
I'll make a motion.
I'll second.
Motion is second, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Let's move on to item B. Entertain a motion for approval of the issuance of a Class B beer and Class C wine license to Jennifer Bublitz, agent for Jacob at 1214 LLC, doing business as 1218. 13th Avenue for the period ending June 30th, 2021, subject to satisfaction of all outstanding financial obligations to the village of Grafton and successful passing of all inspections.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Second.
Motion and second. How close is this to our last one?
How many
Class
licenses?
B, oh, this is a survey, okay,
Oh,
all right,
yeah, this is
all
not.
right, got it.
well done.
All right, motion and second, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? And motion passes. Move on to item 12, entertain a motion for the approval of village expenditures, $126,615.66.
I'll make a motion.
Second. Motion and second, some back and forth on questions. Any final questions on bills? Hearing none, all in favor? Any opposed? That motion passes. Item 13, motion to adjourn.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Motion is second, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? We are adjourned. Thank you, everyone. Appreciate the time.